The night Zuri was born, the winds howled like grieving spirits. Inside a small hut in the village of Mabira, a woman named Nyasha lay on a straw mat, her body trembling with exhaustion. The midwife wiped the newborn clean and hesitated before placing her in Nyasha's arms. Her legs were twisted. One look and Nyasha knew her daughter would never walk. Whispers spread through the village like wildfire. A child like that brings bad luck, some muttered. She will never marry, never work, only take. Nyasha was still young, beautiful. Men still admired her. But now they looked at her with pity. She hated it. For 5 years, Nyasha cared for Zuri, but every time she looked at her, she saw a future of shame. She saw a crippled girl who would never amount to anything. One night, under the light of a pale moon, Nyasha wrapped Zuri in a thick cloth and carried her into the dark forest. She walked for hours, deeper and deeper, until she reached a place where the trees whispered and the air smelled of damp earth and forgotten things. She placed Zuri on the ground, knelt beside her, and whispered, "Forgive me." Then she walked away. Zuri didn't cry at first. She just sat there, waiting for her mother to return. But the night grew colder. The sounds of the forest grew louder, the rustling of unseen creatures, the distant howl of a hungry hyena. Fear crept in. "Mama," she called. Silence. She crawled forward, dragging her useless legs behind her. Twigs scratched her hands. Tears blurred her vision. Still, she moved. "Mama, please." No answer. Then something moved in the shadows. A pair of glowing eyes. Then another and another. Hyenas. A whimper escaped her lips. She tried to move faster, but her legs betrayed her. The first hyena crept closer, sniffing the air. Zuri shut her eyes. This was the end. Then a roar. The ground trembled. A massive shadow leapt from the trees. A lion. The hyenas yelped and scattered. Zuri opened her eyes. The lion was staring at her, its golden eyes unreadable. Then, without a sound, it turned and disappeared into the trees. Zuri was alone again. She didn't know how long she wandered. Hunger clawed at her belly. Thirst burned her throat. Then she saw it, a hut hidden between 2 great trees. Smoke curled from the roof. Zuri crawled closer. An old woman stepped out. Her hair was white as ash, her eyes deep as the night sky. She knelt before Zuri, touching her face. "They left you, didn't they?" she murmured. Zuri's lips quivered. The dam broke. She wept, her little body shaking with every sob. The woman scooped her up, pressing her against her warm chest. "You are safe now, little one." And for the first time in days, Zuri believed it. Years passed. The old woman, Nambi, became Zuri's family. She taught her how to survive in the forest, how to listen to the trees, how to call the birds, how to find food where others saw nothing. Zuri's legs remained useless, but her arms grew strong. She climbed trees like a leopard, swung from vines like a monkey. She moved faster than any hunter. The forest was her kingdom, but the wound in her heart never healed. She still longed for her mother's arms. Meanwhile, back in the village, Nyasha suffered. She had thought life would be easier without Zuri. She was wrong. Nightmares plagued her. She saw Zuri's small hands reaching for her in the dark, heard her cries echo in her ears. The villagers whispered now, but not about Zuri. They whispered about Nyasha. A mother who abandons her child will never know peace. And she didn't. One night, she could take it no longer. She set out for the dark forest. The journey was treacherous. The deeper she walked, the more the trees seemed to close in on her, as if punishing her. Then she heard it, a laughter echoing through the trees, a girl's laughter. She followed the sound, pushing past branches and thorns. And there she saw her, Zuri, but she was not a helpless child anymore. She sat on a thick branch, a great eagle perched on her shoulder. The trees seemed to bow to her. The animals moved as if she was their queen. Nyasha gasped. Zuri turned. Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Nyasha fell to her knees. My daughter, my beautiful daughter. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Forgive me. Zuri stared at her mother, the woman who had left her to die. And then, in a voice as soft as the wind, she asked, would you have come back if your heart was not haunted? Nyasha sobbed. I was a coward. I let fear guide me. I failed you. Zuri climbed down, crawling toward her mother. When she reached her, she placed a small, calloused hand on her mother's face. I do not hate you, she whispered. Nyasha closed her eyes, letting out a shaky breath. Hope. Then Zuri pulled back. But I do not need you anymore. Nyasha's heart shattered. The child she had abandoned had become stronger than she had ever imagined. And so Nyasha left, alone. As she disappeared into the trees, a single tear slid down Zuri's cheek, but she did not stop her mother. She turned back to the forest, the only home she had ever known. And under the vast African sky, the child once forsaken became legend.